All right, all right. We're back at the office on the squeaky chair. You guys have to deal with that chair if I do, okay? And I'm not getting a new chair. I like this chair. It's a good IKEA chair. It just squeaks. Let's talk about painting today. Oil painting. We'll be quick. I wanted to share my love of oil painting with you guys. This is Batman. I'm finalizing him right now. He's about 8 hours in, and as I'm finishing him, and I still have some work. Like Joker still needs to be done. The batarang thing needs to be done. I'm not sure if I will put in more effort into the background or not. I kind of like it to be simpler than him to separate the background from the foreground, which is the character. So a lot of these choices, this conversation that happens when you're painting, right? And um, and I think that's what I love about oil painting, um, is that you have the time to have that conversation. I like to paint gouache, which is it's gouache is almost the same as acrylics. They're just not shiny. It's like a matte acrylic paint. I've also enjoy watercolors and pretty much any type of art form, but nothing feels like oil painting, and it is because you have that time to do what you want to do. And if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. Now, here's the pro tip, and I'm not a pro, but here's a pro tip. You can't use cheap art supplies. You can't just get like an oil paint starter kit from Amazon or from Michael's. You're gonna hate it. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be like if you ever open up like a ketchup packet and you get that like the non-ketchup juice coming out first, like if it hasn't been mixed, there's like the separation. That's what's gonna happen with majority of those paints. You're gonna try to, you won't know that it's happening, but as you're trying to put them on canvas, you're just gonna be smearing stuff, right? It's gonna be bad. I've done it. I can say that I've probably started oil painting 15 years ago and walked away then I probably started, a couple years later, walked away. Every time I've tried one of those like entry level kits, and it left me just hating it, and it left me thinking like, how are these other painters doing it? Like they must be geniuses because they're doing something that I'm not. And the truth was no, they were just actually using really nice, the standard level of oil paints where all the entry level stuff is garbage. It's just straight up garbage. So don't even do it. Now, which oil paints do I use? I can't. I'm not like the guy that will give you guys recommendations because I'm not. I'm not a pro. Again, even though I've tried so many years ago, I haven't really gotten into it until last year, like last summer. So I'm not even like a year old in terms of oil paintings. But I use Winsor and Newton. Um, these guys, Series 1, and I think there's Series 2, and I think Series 2 is the more pro level. Series 1 is the kind of like entry level. But I like these guys. They're not cheap, right? Like I don't know, like I think I could be wrong. It's been a while. I got these last year, but I think like these big tubes are like 20 bucks or 25. You can get them on sale. Um, but the smaller tubes are probably like 5 to 7 bucks. So it's good to get a few primary colors, right? Colors that like RGB, like red, green, blue, that you can mix to get any other colors, white and black, uh, such paints, just so you can start with a very limited choice and try to create with that. But my overall recommendation for anyone who hasn't tried oil painting is that kind of that conversation I was talking about, the conversation that you have with yourself about the choices that you can make once you realize that you can make them. And what I mean by this is with oil paint, when you're painting, you're sort of moving things. You're pushing and pulling the paint, but it's not like acrylics or watercolor that it dries immediately and you're stuck. In those, you can do nice work with those type of paints, but you're acting very fast. Like you don't have time to think. You just have time to act in a way. Yes, there are like things you can add to them to slow down the drying process, but this is the opposite. And it feels like, and again, I'm not a golfer. I don't go to like, but it feels like when you watch golf on TV, like the calmness, that's what you get with oil paints. It's it just has that nice flow to it. It really allows you to have a conversation with yourself on the area that you're working on. So my approach, my personal approach is, and I will change this in the future, because there's painters that paint the whole thing, their whole piece in one sitting. And I tried that on the beginning, and and again, this again comes from like the other mediums that dry so fast. You really have no other option. Like with acrylics, you just get it done in the same sitting, right? This is the opposite, but you could do it. Like there's artists that can do the whole piece in one sitting. This also gives you an option to do it in layers, meaning like Photoshop. Like if you're using digital art and you do things in layers, you can totally do that in with oil paint. Like this guy was all black and white. I started him out as grayscale. I didn't, you see these darker areas here of the blue of his shoes and the highlights on his head and the darker area right here. Anywhere where you see a shadow and highlight, it's black and white. So imagine this whole thing in black and white. That's how this was. It was black and white. And then when I was ready, when I had him all done in black and white, I decided to colorize him. And you can do that in oil paints. You can take a blue, thin it out, and just, you know, go over those areas. And that blue is going to tint that area, the grayscale area that you had. And so for people who maybe are not good with colors, but are good with values being like the, you know, the dark, the black and whites areas, that's perfect because you can separate the way you paint. You can paint in black and white, focus on that, almost like a sketch, like a pencil sketch, and then at the end go in and apply color. And then at the end of that, maybe do some highlights, but you don't have to really worry about the color. You can then use a single color and you're going to get these variations of lighter and darker tones. So things like that. There's so many different approaches, right? And again, I'm about 8 hours into this guy. Maybe I could have done it faster. It doesn't really matter to me because I'll work, you know, 45 minutes here. I'll let it dry for a day or two. I'll come back. I'll work, you know, an hour here. I don't even feel it. You know, I don't have a set ETA of when I have to finish it. I'm going to noodle it until I feel like I've noodled it enough. So it has a very, very therapeutic feel to it. And I think that's why oil painting is something that you should try out if you've ever thought about it. But again, do not use like super cheap materials. So I brought in a few other pieces. They're not as finished as Batman, but so you guys can see. Let's see if you'll pick up. Come on, focus, focus. So you can see this is, I just colorized it. He was black and white as well. It's not, here we go, maybe from this distance. But I've just colorized him right here. He was pretty much black and white. And all I did, I took a little bit of like a yellow color for the background. It's a very, very thin pass. It's mostly, you can still see the white of the canvas, the original canvas, and added a little bit, kind of like a grayish, bluish tone, a very thin layer just to colorize them, and a little bit of this like pinkish red for the bow. And this is enough for me from this pass. This is kind of the information that I need as almost like a thumbnail. Okay, now that I have this information, the depth, we have the kind of like the light to dark color information, and then we have the color, the actual color information. I have enough information here now for me to take this, and now I can mix colors and I can add to it. I can work on top of it. I can maybe say, okay, today I'm just going to work on, this ear and his ears and his nose. They're just black and white, maybe his eyes and the eyebrows. Let me work on all those pieces. I get it to the point where I want. I leave him for a few days. He dries. And then I come back like, okay, today let's just work on this bow. Right? We work on that. Done. And so on. So a little bit of a further example here is Barney from the Flintstones. He's a little bit further along than him, maybe one more session or two, because I did a very rough pass right here, and I started putting some shadows, right? Like you can see, like under his nose, there's a little bit of a shaded color. So it's like taking this and working on top of that. So it's taking this information and painting on top based on what you're seeing. And at this point, it's almost like looking at clouds and looking for shapes in clouds. You're looking for this detail that you're getting for free because it's there, it's on the canvas. You're just spotting it, right? I'm not designing anything here. I'm just pulling it out of the canvas, and and the sky itself, like I was working on a different piece. I think it was him. I think I was working on Batman, and I think I was working on the ground and his and then I mixed the two colors. I had him left over. Like I finished the session with Batman, and I had these two colors left over, not a lot. But I'm like, what can I do with these colors? Oh, like maybe it'll work well with Barney because of his skin tones, or he's kind of yellowish. Let me mix them together, and I got this purple, and I just plopped it in, just to push it further. So it's kind of cool because you're able to work on a variety of paintings at the same time because you're doing them in layers and you're doing them in these little increments. Now this guy, yeah, it's one of my favorite characters, but I feel very, very like twisted about him because I like how unfinished he is. I like the way he looks. At the same time, he does look unfinished, right? And I do plan to like put these up in my little art store eventually. And as much as I like him, I feel like, man, I should probably do like one or two more passes. Like his eyes, let's see if his eyes are a little bit undefined. But I like this dirtiness. I like this, come on, I gotta hide my face or it's gonna pick up my face. I like this roughness that he has. And again, it's this mental game that I'm playing with myself now, right? This conversation of how far should I push it. I'm okay with keeping it like this. I actually think he came out pretty cool. He looks rough. He doesn't look like perfect. But if I was gonna sell it to someone, would I feel okay with giving it to him? Even though, like, even just to get it to this stage, this is probably like 4.5 hours in, and I'll probably do at least like one more pass on it. But I feel like it's at that point, right? It's at that point where it's at the artist's discretion of when I can call it done, and then it being done. Because from far away, it looks pretty great, in my opinion, in my unbiased opinion. But yeah, there's so much going on in these little tests that you can do, and it really opens up your mind, at least from problem solving perspective, because there's a lot of time that, like, I think I was working on Batman and I figured out that you could, like, I would wait off I would often wait. I would do a pass, and even if I like pushed paint, you'll make errors, right? You'll make errors when you paint over what you wanted to paint. Like, for example, I think it was like around his helmet, his mask, that I don't know what happened, but I was just like, I was trying to be careful, and then sometimes you just go, whoop, uh-oh, I painted over the line, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And then I took an empty brush, totally like dry brush, and I just started pushing it, and I completely cleared out that error. It completely disappeared, like it wasn't there before, just by taking a brush with no paint on it and just kind of like manipulating it and moving it and getting it out of the way. And when you do that once or twice, you realize that, holy shit, like this is a tool this is now a tool in my toolbox. Like when that happens again, I don't have to freak out. Let me just try it. Let me try to fix this, right? Had it not worked, right? Had it, like, I've tried it and didn't work, what I would have done is just left it there for like a day or two, had it dried, and then come back on a different day and maybe redo the sky, do like a little like pass on the sky, and covered it up that way. But again, so now I have like two tools that I can utilize to fix any little issues like that. And that's just like a fraction of what's going to happen, right? Like as you're going to keep working at with oil paintings, you're gonna build this arsenal of these little solutions you have, and that's gonna go on top of whatever the designs you have or the ideas you have. Like I'm not a realistic painter, right? I can't do realism. I've tried. I'm terrible at it. It just doesn't come to me naturally, right? So for me, it's all these like cartoon characters, right? Stuff I grew up on. But if you might be into, I don't know, landscapes or realistic portraits or whatever it may be, your process is eventually going to give you an arsenal of tools and tips and little shortcuts that you can utilize to create whatever you're creating. And it just gets better with time. You know, like the longer you do it, the more that bag of trick grows. And yeah, it's just fun. I would highly recommend it to anyone, artist, non-artist. Just give it a go. Be patient with it. That's all the fun is the patience, right? Like it's something you build on over time. You don't have to finish it in one sitting. Yeah, it's very forgiving. It's very rich when it comes to colors. You can work super thin as I do, where it looks like there's almost no paint on it. Or you can do very thick paint where you can see globs of paint kind of sticking out, protruding out. There's so many things that can be done. And yeah, that's my little spiel about oil painting. But I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.